Well, thank you very much. And I don't think I need to be up here for too long because Ryan said it far more effectively than I could have said it. It is a call to action. And perhaps the one thing that didn't come out, which it's fair, we're dealing with science, is that we're in a race against time. Not only is from a business perspective, the annual run rate of deaths from preventable airborne-based infections, not only that needs to be addressed, but we also have this looming sort of threat of when is the next pandemic. So, we really are in a race against time. Having said that, again, I echo Ryan's comments that I'm very, very grateful as a sponsor for the level of dialogue, the professionalism, the honesty, and the intellectual candor that is happening here, and the respect. I'm very, very inspired by that, and we would certainly be very keen to be a sponsor of the next ICFAST. So thank you very much to Dr. Brenner and Professor Eady and everyone else in the organising committee. Thank you. What I want to do is just talk a little bit about the business perspective, spend the next 5 minutes quickly talking about that. We're a newcomer in this industry. I can't talk with a great deal of experience. We're pre-revenue, we're well resourced, and we do three things and three interests. The first one is creating a portfolio. So I'll spare you the sales pitch. Come and see us downstairs. We have a deep belief in sensor technology and the utilization of sensors, because you cannot improve something if you don't measure it. And I think this has come back again and again and again. Computer modeling, the simulation, the need for a database. This is important, and sensing and using the best of sensor technologies is important, and as much as we can do real time. So that's a second thing that we're very, very focused on, is that the enablement of sensing. And the third one you heard from Dr. Showalter yesterday, the work in how do we make a more efficient source of far UV. Again, saying that, we have a great relationship with Ushio, and I have to call that out because I couldn't ask for a better partner. So some perspectives, you can see that downstairs. Opportunities, there are clear opportunities. As a business, it's a little bit like at the beginning of any market. You're walking across the Sahara Desert with 100 fellow travelers, all trying to survive, and generally a tenth of you get there. It's messy before the market really takes off. It's very, very messy. So being able to survive is important. So the way we look at it is very simple. Economically, strategically, and socially, we know that there needs to be a mitigation strategy for the world. This is not a static environment. It's an increasing risk environment with population growth, with cross-species mutations, etc. Safe air is an emerging segment. So where does it fit in the industry? It is not by itself. It's very clear. In the indoor environment, we started off with comfort, furnaces, making sure thermostats and all of that. We went into uptime and cost of operation in commercial buildings. A commercial building was all about in the 60s. I don't want it to break down, and I want my people to be nice and comfortable and work in an air-conditioned environment. Then it got to energy efficiency and environmental responsibilities. These have been emerging trends. So if you look at anybody in the HVAC's industry site, it's about efficiency, it's environmental responsibility. And then obviously in the last 10 years or so, a real push on occupant productivity and wellness. IAQ, sick building syndrome, ensuring that we've got minimum outside air, lowering CO2 levels, and obviously particulates as well. But there is this emerging segment. It's a new segment, and it's not displacing an incumbent in general terms, and it's safe air, lowering that risk of infection. So that to me is just a very, very clear indication that there is a market. It's not an if, it's a when. And why Far-UVC? Many tools and many arrows in the quiver, but the Far-UVC, from what I can see as a business person, is arguably the best. UVC is important from our perspective. Far-UVC is more important. They both work together. Sanitize all of the other methods of sanitization, cleaning, disinfection are important, but we want to focus on Far-UVC. But there is no market. I will be absolutely honest to those of you who aren't in business in this room. The harder I look, the more elusive it is. There's revenue, but there's not enough even to support the existing players in this market over the long term. There has to be growth if we are going to use this as a tool and build a market. Of course, the entrants into this space are self-serving, and there's no apologies for that. But we all have to understand in this race against time for humanity, we've got many, it's a broad church and we have many players. We have to encourage people to get into this business, to do quality work, to do data-backed work, to share the things that are good for the world without ruining their competitive advantage, i.e. modeling, benchmarking, data, standards, all of those things, if we want this to work. The only other point I'd say is the uptick in growth, and it's a little hard to see here, but it gets faster. We get through that innovation, the bleeding edge of innovators and the leading edge of early adopters before you get to that early mass market. And that's the way we need to think. What are the catalysts that we have to sort of get in place to speed that up, get adoption in a safe, sensible, data-backed, science-friendly manner? But there are challenges. And again, nothing new here. The first point I would want to make is I keep hearing this 99 point. If you want to be a player in this market, you have to use the word 99.9%. I don't understand. I thought it was R has to be less than 1. I thought there has to be something reasonable, and there's got to be a more mature approach and guidelines to say what does good look like in the application of Far-UVC, and that is critical. And we're in a race. We've got to do it, and it needs to happen in a professional manner. The second one is safety. I mean, there's really the three, isn't there? There's efficacy, there's safety, and there's adoption. The regulatory framework, we need to be very wise about this, and I would encourage everyone to get involved where you can to contribute. And yes, there are divergent opinions, and what we've got to do is use the science to come together, and it has to be data-backed, and that's why I was so impressed with this great conference. Continued research, obviously, and everybody plays a part in that. We've got to work together to make sure that research is funded, that it's enabled, and that we do not become polarized in opinions, but we become united through science. And then I want to say, from an industry perspective, I said it before, and I'll say it again, you can't improve something if you don't measure it. We've had too little discussion here about the adoption of measurements, the use of sensors. How do you go to real time? What are the challenges? What are the cost benefit trade-offs? Because that's what we need to do to take the guesswork out of it. We have to have more focus on sensing and on measuring. In terms of adoption, it's pretty straightforward. To break through that early adopter or the innovators, the bleeding edge, we've got to get reference sites. At Lit Thinking, we will really focus on that. Newsworthy, appropriate reference sites, not just for our company, but for the industry. It's a win-win. And we're happy to partner to identify those that really change that perception of UV from something bad for a tool for good. There's got to be that expertise developed within the industry on application. And then I just finish with this. Perfection is the enemy of good. And I would put to this conference, everyone here, do we know enough to start applying this in a sensible way in well-ventilated rooms? What are the basic rules of thumb? Because I didn't know whether to go out and get drunk, go home, go and have a nap at the hotel. Once we started talking about VSCs, ozone and particulates, I was like, oh my goodness, how do we address that? Good night's sleep. We address it by working together, by respecting the opinions like that was done, and start working with the research to say, how do we make sure that we can apply this incredible technology to the good of the world as soon as practicable in a safe manner? And with that, that's my position. Thank you.